Devastated, confused, heartbroken. So many times in life we get thrown for a curve and don't know how to react.
I can tell you the first time I had sex, how was my marriage going to survive? It's over. I remember standing in front of the judge with my 3-week-old baby, looking at my ex. I saw the look on his face and it was complete rage.
Welcome to When Life Throws You a Curve and How to Make the Adjustment with your host, Katie Hamilton.
Hey guys, welcome to When Life Throws You a Curve and How to Make the Adjustment. I'm Katie Hamilton. Thanks for joining me today. So before I get into the episode, I have some news to share. Cash Money is no longer with us. I mean, he's here on this earth. He's in Charlotte. He has made some money moves and he has left the building of Texas. So we wish him well. And I know it was a bummer that he wasn't, we weren't able to coordinate our schedules for us to do a show together before he left, because we had done the whole Cash is 2 cents, and I was so excited to re-delve into that and get an update. But because I was not able to, he is going to come on the show and be a guest once he gets settled in Charlotte. And I also want to take this opportunity. So Cash, we wish you well and we love you and we will miss you here on When Life Throws You a Curve. And stepping into his very large shoes is a man who I'm quickly growing to really, really love and just adore, Mr. Trey. I don't have your last name, producer. What's your how do you say your last name?
So my last name is Giles.
It's
Giles. So Giles.
Okay, that's not on your email though, is it?
I think it is. My full first name is on there and my last name actually.
Oh, it's your full first name that threw me off.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, well, so we're gonna stick with Trey, and then I'm sure I'm gonna come up with a fun nickname for you, Trey.
I think we could think of something. We can put our heads together.
We can think of a lot of things. We've just spent some time. I've been in the studio today, and he is so delightful to work with. I'm so happy that to have you. I will miss Cash, of course, but absolutely. You can hold your own.
You said, Cash is some pretty big shoes to fill. So I think I'm up to the challenge, though. I think I can make him proud. I think that you absolutely will. I know you will, because you are you're a blast. So. Thank you for being here and taking on me. I'm a tall order sometimes, so you just brace yourself, but you seem like you can hold your own. So. I am ready. I am ready.
All right. Well, today we have on the episode Aaron Patton with New Age Influencers Podcast. Aaron and we actually had the opportunity to do a show together. I was on his podcast, and he has some really exciting things in the works. So I'm looking forward to bringing this episode to you. It's an audio only, so this is the only visual that you'll get if you're watching. But I hope you enjoy it, and I will be back on the screen next week. So thank you guys for joining me, and enjoy this episode. Welcome to When Life Throws You a Curve and How to Make the Adjustment. I'm Katie Hamilton. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Today I have the pleasure of having Mr. Aaron Patton on the show. He has a podcast called the New Age Influencers Podcast, and I had the privilege of being on his show. He was so kind to reach out to me just a few months ago, I think. Wasn't it, Aaron, a few months ago?
Yeah, it was a few months ago, and I appreciate you having me on. It's nice to share the podcast spotlight.
Yeah, we had such a fun conversation. I feel like we could have talked for hours. He's such a great interviewer and a really, really fascinating guy. And I was like, okay, bro, you've got to come on my show. And he was so kind to return the favor so that we could, continue the conversation. I definitely have taken some of his interviewing style and his attention and his awareness to his guests. Like when I'm talking about when I was being interviewed, it was very. It made me feel a certain type of way that made the interview really seamless, in my opinion, and easy. And I would, I really hope that I'm able to give that to my guests when they come on. But he's a professional. I saw you've already hit 100 episodes.
Yeah, just pretty recently hit 100 interviews, which is pretty exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's about 2 years old now, the podcast, and I'm having just as much fun as ever. So I think that's the key.
That's awesome. I just got my 25th badge, my little, hey, you hit 25 last week. So you'll be 26. But, for me, that was, when I set out to do it, I started in February, and I was thinking, okay, well, I'll get one out every single week, and then 2020 kind of happened. And
yeah,
with, I'm not making excuses, but I'm totally making excuses. I mean, I'm actually happy with getting surprised actually that I was able to do 25 and now 26, and I have a few more coming out. So maybe I'll hit 30 before the end of the year, who knows, but 100 is an amazing accomplishment. And I listened to your top 10, similar attributes of your guests.
Yeah.
And I found every single one of those totally made sense. Like when I think of successful people, every single quality that you laid out or that you found that, they had in common, I would agree with, with all of those. And your top one, which was, do it your way or know who you are, that kind of thing, is like, my life motto. So I was really feeling your top 10 across the board. And I think those are important for everyone. I don't know if you want to share with my audience, if you remember all of them, but if not, they need to go back and listen to it, because it was really good, really fascinating, and really encouraging.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. And I'll hit on a couple, maybe not all 10, but just a couple of the important ones. And I think the one that you're referring to was the last one I mentioned, where it's just the most important thing is just kind of just to be yourself, whatever goofy or crazy personality you have, just put it out there. If you're trying to build some type of online presence or social media presence or brand, or even not, even if you're just trying to maybe just connect with more people, get some more prospects for your job, whatever the case may be, I think it's just important to be yourself, because no matter who you are, you're going to get judged either way, whether you're the most rich and famous person there is out there, or whether you're, sitting on the couch unemployed. Like, there's people that's going to judge you for everything. So you might as well just take a shot and put yourself out there and let people know what you're trying to do, because that's how you connect with people, and that's how you grow just personally and online.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like that just really, it resonated with me a lot. It was refreshing to hear somebody else say it with such conviction and passion that, that's just similar to how I feel about it. I mean, we're the only one that can be us, and every single other person in the world, like they are the only people that can be them. So like, we might as well like do what we're supposed to do and have the freedom to just be the people that we're created to be. So, but saying it and then actually
executing,
having the freedom to do it, or feeling, like you're just, okay, I can just be myself, and like, who gives a crap if somebody doesn't like me? Well, of course, baby doll, not everybody's gonna like you. That's okay. I mean, we are all different, but that's what, like, I love that about life, and I love that about people. And you said something else. You're I don't know if you put it in these words, but these are the words that I frame it in, but it means the same thing. Like there's enough room at the table for everyone. Just because somebody's doing something that you want to do doesn't mean that you're totally disqualified now. No, not at all. You can absolutely still do that. And if they've been in that game, in that realm longer, then use their wisdom. That's an advantage for you. It's definitely not a disqualification. So anyway, I really enjoyed those, just those attributes, and thought it was really cool that you took time to put those out there, because I think it was encouraging for me to hear. Even though I feel like I try to say some of those same things, it's just, I feel like sometimes I'm a broken record to myself, because I feel like I have to encourage myself a lot. But
I think that's part of it, for being a podcaster or someone that's putting out online content, whether it's video, audio, written word. I think you just have to put your stuff out there, and you learn the best by teaching, in whatever you do. So by reiterating it yourself, it's like forcing you to really internalize it, because a lot of times people learn, but they don't really truly internalize it until they actually have to regurgitate it back to someone.
Yeah, that is so true. I tell my kids, I'm like, okay, now you teach me what you just learned. And if they can teach it to me, then I know they know it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's killing two birds with one stone. That's why I love just the podcast format, is because you can, and especially the interview format, because I'm learning every single episode from guests such as yourself and everyone's different life experiences, but I'm also producing content. So I'm also speaking to a listener and an audience, and hopefully helping them in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I personally have always, ever since I started doing anything media related, which granted my first experience was not fun, but but it was important, because I learned something hard really quickly. And that helped me grow really, really fast at an accelerated level that would prove very, very necessary. But I think because of that being my background, and having done so many different types of media interviews where you're getting asked questions, or talking back and forth, it's always been my preferred style of when I go and do speaking engagements. Now granted, I will get up there and just talk. I mean, I do it on my own show too, but I love the conversation style. I think that there is a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of layers. Sometimes you just don't know where it's going to go, and it ends up being something you maybe didn't plan for, but like a million times better. And I also think that when you're working with, like, you have your demographic following of people that are really familiar with you. I have people that I'm familiar with, and getting that exchange and extra exposure for your followers and for my followers, because they're going to be hopefully blessed by what we bring on our respective podcasts, and then also like with our podcasts with each other or our other guests or whatever. I think it gives it a lot of legs and can do a ton of good for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, collaborations is key these days. And, if for anyone out there listening, if you want to grow on socials or online or whatever, like just being willing to work with other people, even if they're your quote unquote competitor, or, like podcasters together, YouTubers together. It's like if you met a friend through a friend, it's like, well, you're not going to stop being friends with the original person. You might become with the person that they introduced you to, but it doesn't mean you just cut them off. So it's kind of a similar mode of thinking, except for more professional reasons.
Yeah, and I mean, even in and that was such a great point. And I'm gonna jump into some that kind of line of questioning. You're about to be interrogated. Just because I think that there's such a hunger for that knowledge out there. But I'm gonna say this, and then I'll jump into that, because this kind of goes right in line with what you were saying. If you, if I can remember what I was saying, oh my word.
That's
okay,
well,
I guess it wasn't that important. Oh no, I remember. In, let's say, traditional business, like before all of this existed, people would go out and network, and they would meet people, and they would have like socials and gatherings. And it was, that, I mean, not that still doesn't happen, because it does happen, but, especially in 2020, there was a lot less of that happening. But this is just a whole another realm of a way to network and get to know people, and not just where you can meet face to face, like in your state or in your country. Like, I mean, this is worldwide. So it is an incredible advantage and an amazing tool. And also, relationships are so important. You know, I know everyone's in the, like, we're in the smartphone world. We're always, you know, glued to our phones or whatever. But this is a way to kind of to have that kind of a collaboration, you know, the technology world, but still have the relationship aspect of it, which I think is really cool and really necessary, because we need each other. People need people. Like, you know, we may not always want to, we may think we can do it, you know, all ourselves, you know, our way, like alone, but we really are better together. So anyway, I think it's if it's used wisely, it is a dynamite resource. So
yeah, in fact, just to elaborate, yeah, I mean, the connection economy is going to single-handedly just change the direction of humanity. I mean, it already has, and people were starting to adopt it, you know, before the pandemic, but since the pandemic too, it's just thrust it even tenfold more into just use. You know, I mean, the Zoom use has skyrocketed. I mean, it has to, you know, people meeting people virtually is more important than ever. People they have to be somewhere physically to do their jobs or to build a brand or to launch product. You know, you can do it from your fingertips, which is truly amazing. It's something that, you know, our past generations didn't have the opportunity to do. And then also though, with the technology that exists, I think it for the younger generations, and you have kids, and for the young people, like, it's going to accelerate in both ways. And what I mean by that is it can be the absolute best thing in the world or the absolute worst thing in the world. It can be the best thing in the world if, you know, the child or a young adult or someone is focused on consuming good information, positivity, and learning and using it effectively. But it can be the worst thing in the world if that person's kind of stuck in comparing themselves to others and just following garbage accounts and just being made to feel bad every single time they're online. So it's really accelerating in both directions, which is, it's just good for one side and bad for the other side. But I think it's really important to bring awareness that people need to be using it for positivity and for improving their lives, not just, you know, something to do on the couch.
Absolutely. Yeah. If we have time at the end, I'll tell you a story about me, from back in 2012, you know, about social media and kind of where I was then and where I am now, and how I set a boundary. But I'm so glad that happened, because I set a boundary with myself, that I needed, but it makes me very aware, and watchful that I have to be engaged in what my kids are, you know, accessing, what they're into. I mean, it is all out there. I mean,
yeah.
and when your 9-year-old walks in and just singing a song that, like, that, I mean, and I love me some, you know, I've always loved some rap, you know, all manner of, just maybe a little too explicit hip hop music, but when, you know, I'm like she doesn't even know what she's saying.
Yeah, that's what TikTok does.
You know, but like my heart just like totally, you know, like can't breathe for a few minutes, but I trying to keep my composure without just, you just have to be on your game. But parents have to be on their game anyway. People have to be on their game. Professionals have to be on their game. So that's just the way of the world.
Yeah, it's morphed into, I mean, it's very hyper sexualized, very hyper, not PG content. And before, when the internet and social media apps weren't as prevalent, you know, you could just put your cable settings on child, right? But you can't put cable settings on the entire internet and all the apps as parents. So it's impossible.
This is at the ready, anything you want, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of like the game changing and all of that, I read that you played poker, that after you quit your corporate job, which was in your, like mid to late 20s?
Yep. Late 20s.
Late 20s. Okay. Which okay, this is just like a personal question, and I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure.
Did you consult with like your parents, your friends, any other people, like when you were thinking like, I think I'm gonna like get up out of here, or was it something that had just been building in you, and then one day you were just like, okay, yeah, I'm done?
Well, both. So I'm building in me that I wasn't going on a path that I wanted to go on. And granted, in the grand scheme of corporate jobs, this one was pretty good. I had it pretty good. I was in sales. I didn't even have to go in the office till like 9, and it's kind of come and go as you want, as long as you're producing. But I still knew that even though it was an all right job and decent pay, I knew that I didn't want to continue on this path because, maybe 5, 6, 7 years down the line, I don't think I would be that happy. So I've been starting to entertain some other ideas. I was listening to podcasts, listening to a lot of, business, Gary Vee, marketing podcasts, things like that. And I just had some ideas percolating in my head. And I was also playing poker at the time.
And you're listening to Gary Vee and
oh, yeah.
thinking about quitting your job.
Oh yeah, just classic, just classic Gary Vee type of stuff. But I had a conversation with my parents. They live in Las Vegas, and every single summer they vacation, or they leave because the summers in Vegas are too hot. So they were actually in San Diego for that summer back in 2017. And I had a conversation with them, and I said I was thinking of leaving. Like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm not sure, but I think I can figure it out. But in the meantime, I'm just going to continue to play poker. Maybe I can make it, maybe I can't. And then my dad is like, well, you're not going to know unless you try. And that was it. That's all the blessing I needed.
That was huge.
Because and it makes sense because poker hasn't worked out as far as monetarily. I mean, it's still fun and I still enjoy it, but it's grind. It's very difficult to make it to make it as a professional, I should say. So but I at least wanted to try something. So it just gave me the confidence to do that and to move forward. And now I can just say, I have no regrets about wondering if I could have made it in poker, even though that was never really truly my biggest goal, but I was doing it a lot at the time that I quit. So it was kind of like a symbiotic thing.
Yeah, so you took a little gamble there on that, quitting your job.
Yeah, I like risk. I like gambling.
It's funny. My parents used to go, vacation in different islands in the summer, and I was like 15 because the laws are so different out of the country, and they were all playing Caribbean stud poker, and I was just kind of observing. And this man that was there with my family, he was like, I mean, we didn't know him, but he was at our table. He was like, here, come play with my chips. And so I was like, okay, well, you don't have to ask me twice, So I learned how to play with this other dude's chips. And I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. I always walked away I never if I was, when I was up enough, I would say, okay, if I can just get up to 500, then and I was 15. So that's a lot of money for a 15-year-old, I'm like, if I can get to 15, if I can get up to 500, I'm walking away. And so I did every single time. And, I'm not a huge, I'm not all up in the casinos because I just don't have time for that. But I looked at it as, okay, well, if I'm going to go to a show or go do something tonight and I'm going to spend $200 doing that, and that's how much money I'll take in. If I lose it, then I'm out of there, but thankfully I've stayed in my parameters, but I have a small, I play, poker, and sometimes I play blackjack, but Caribbean stud poker is my favorite, and they don't always have that here in America.
Yeah, well, I think it sounds to me like you were a pretty responsible gambler, even if you didn't do it too much. It seems like you had a natural stop loss in there, meaning if you lost a certain amount, you would leave, or if you won a certain amount, you would leave, and that's a good way to do it. A lot of people don't have the ability to do that. People who like to gamble, sometimes they just never stop.
Yeah, well, my daughter is dating this athlete in Raleigh, North Carolina, and when we were there this summer, like he and his brother, who's also an athlete, and my sister and brother-in-law, they all love poker, and I had my little children like they're wanting to stay up late, like they were like dealing the cards and like wait a second now, what is happening, like and Michaela's like, I want $80. She was 11 at the time, she's 12 now. I'm like, you guys no, I mean, but it was so hard for me to be like, okay, don't do this, because that's what they're with their family having fun, but they were playing with real money. I'm like, well, you're not going to be playing with my money. If these boys want to let you play with their money, go for it. But they genuinely like took to it. It was kind of funny. Kind of, I don't know at what age did you start playing?
Well, I'm a quarter Chinese. My grandfather was full Chinese, and it is true, Asians do like gambling. So I would always play golf and cards with him all the time in his retirement home in Washington, D.C. I started there. We played cards and had little, pieces of rice for like chips and like, so it started at a young age for me.
You know what, though? That's really sweet. That's really, really sweet. And I bet you made some sweet memories. So,
oh yeah,
that's very special, actually. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to ask you about poker. I wanted to ask you about your parents' reaction, which I love that, your dad had, the wherewithal to say, well, you don't know until you're going to try. Were you more excited, or were you more nervous, or was it just like a mix of both?
I would say is
You were excited?
Yeah, I mean, I had built up a decent amount of savings, and I wasn't going to be hurting for a while, even if I didn't have anything happen. So I was excited, and in the sales industry, it's easier to get a new job once you've been in it. So I knew that if stuff really didn't work out, I'd probably get just another job somewhere. So that was comforting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's impressive, and very impressive that you would take the plunge, realize you're not, feeling fulfilled, and just make that adjustment, make that shift. And I mean, you're doing so much now. And I actually, I heard about a new project that you have, that I want to talk about, or really I'll let you announce whatever you want to announce about it towards the end of the show, because I do think it's going to help a lot of people. But on the social media gamut here, in my opinion, 2020 has, it's been different. Obviously it's been different in every single way, but with social media and, oh my gosh, for everything from, people just watching, having more time to scroll on their phone, to like, the political component of it, and things being blocked, things not being blocked. I would love to hear from you on, do you think that will have a long-term effect or change in how social media is run down the road? And, or do you feel like there might become, could there be birthed a very successful new and different platform that even like millennials would take to, that would not be regulated ever?
Yeah, so you're referring just to the censoring part?
To the censoring part, and also, yeah. Well, let's go with that first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the censoring and with the president and the politics these days is just absolute lunacy. It's crazy, just on both sides. Not only claiming false claims, but also that people have to censor people. It's getting really convoluted.
Right.
I think social media itself, you say anything for free speech, but sometimes it's murky, like right now when there's one person, the president, is affecting so many different opinions that sometimes they feel, and in this case it's mostly Twitter, Jack Dorsey I believe is his name. It's just they feel like to stop the spread of misinformation, it's important to put some kind of disclaimer on it. And also for coronavirus stuff and conspiracy theories, there's just so much craziness out there that they have to slap these regularities on, or regulations on them. And even though I believe in free speech, I also don't want to see, poisonous information just shoot to the moon, because then, who knows what's fact anymore or what's fiction. And I think it's a problem. It's a very new problem. So it's very hard. It's very, very gray, because we've never had, this much crazy stuff happen, like coronavirus and the presidency and all of this in such a short period of time, during a time where social media is so all consuming. Right. So, I mean, before, like, I think, last time it was SARS, that was still pretty wild, but like social media was nowhere near what it was.
That it is now.
That it is now. Like, I'm sure that the averages back then for spending time on the phone, or even people who are having smartphones, was just 1/50th of what it is right now. People spend 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day on their phone these days, which is insane. Sometimes they use it for work. Sometimes it's just people addicted to it. But, watching that documentary, I don't know if you watched it, The Social Dilemma on Netflix, but it's crazy how addicting the phones are. But I mean, in a roundabout way, in conclusion, I honestly don't have the right answer, but that's where I'm just going to go back to the end user. I think it's just most important for the end user to audit their news feed and what they're consuming, and being able to ask themselves legitimate questions, and not just taking things as fact just because your favorite influencer said it, or just because this person said it. Like digging deeper and actually understanding the reasons and the facts behind something, rather than just taking it at surface level. And that's the problem. People see something that someone said, whether it's true or not, and they take it, they repost it, and then that person reposts it, and it snowballs and goes viral, and that's how things just get out of whack. But I mean, that's just the world we live in. But I do think, also to touch on what you said, I do think that there's opportunity for a new platform that has certain rules and restrictions in place to not allow that to happen. And it's something where people would have to opt in, or maybe even pay for, to have an opportunity to be exposed to just, I don't know, more positivity and not so much garbage. But I don't know I don't know what that would look like. Maybe be a thing where the users are required to engage with their followers like every couple weeks, so that it's really only people, so it's not like following a bunch of random accounts all the time. And then, I don't know, but
well, I think, like, when I was listening to you talk, I think what this, and this is something I haven't really put together until this conversation, but if you think back a few years ago, and I mean, not that long ago, but over the last, I would say 5 years, the rate in like teen suicide and stuff was going up because there was so much bullying on the internet. And, people could be saying stuff about those kids that aren't true. And if those children don't know, who to go to, who to talk to, or who they are, or how to shut it down, like how I had to shut Twitter down for my own sake, because I wasn't at a place, where I'll tell you that story at the end, but it was like the greatest thing that I did, because, now social media it doesn't have that effect on me that it did then. And quite honestly, those people weren't even talking about me. They were talking about my husband. But, there's a little bit more to it than that, but if adults have to be regulated, or if there's censorship on adults, then in my opinion, surely there should be some regulations and censorships on what whether it's PG-13,
Yeah.
or have your parent give a consent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just because, and I'm all about freedom of speech for sure. I'm very, I like the Constitution. I like America. But every person has to judge themselves. We all have to look internally and make sure that we are doing the right thing. And, I think that, like, let's just take Twitter, for example. There's basically one person, the person who runs Twitter or owns Twitter or whatever, I'm guessing that's what he does, who is able to make that decision on what's in and what's out. And I think on levels that are that massive, there maybe should be conversations of like boards of people or something. I don't know. I don't know enough about Twitter, because when I closed my account down, I did open it back up, but it was gone already. I just haven't been nearly as active on there as I was like way back in 2012. But I agree with you that because there are apps for every single thing. You know what I mean? Like at different levels, different frequencies. And I think if there is a fee involved, that holds people to a certain level of accountability. Do you know what I mean? Like when there's no repercussions for, like unless you're in high political power, or, like these kids that are getting bullied via whatever. And this is like that flip side of the coin to social media, because I love social media, and I think it is such an amazing tool, and we need to use it as a resource. But just like everything, we've got to know who we are. We have to listen to sound advice. We have to learn. We have to do our research, and we have to use it to our advantage and leverage our resources wisely. And because I feel like, everything happened so well. I think it got to a worldwide stage where the light was shed on so much stuff so fast. We as a community of users or whatever, consumers, are in that adjustment phase, like thinking about ways we can make that adjustment and how can it be beneficial, how can it be helpful without having, so much of because I don't want social media to go away. I don't think it's going to go away. But I want it to be a positive thing. And granted, I don't mind people even saying their political views at all. I disagree with lots of people, about faith, but I love those people regardless of whether I agree with them or not, Yeah,
it's just having the maturity to understand different points of view and not just take it personally. The problem is people take things so personally on Instagram or Twitter that they don't understand that someone's just voicing their opinion, and it doesn't mean that your opinion's wrong when my opinion's the best, although some people take it like that. But it's actually who put it into perspective. Ricky Gervais had a really good comedy bit on this. He's like, it's like back in the old days, you walk into the town square and someone put up a sign saying free guitar lessons and then has a number underneath it. And then he says that you could walk into this square, see free guitar lessons, call that number and be like, I don't want any goddamn guitar lessons. And so then Ricky's like, well, it's not for you. It's only for people interested in guitar. You don't need to call me. So
that is awesome.
That's what happens.
That is exactly what happens. And that's freaking amazing. That is a way to go. Way to go, buddy. That is such a good analogy. He's funny. God, he's funny.
Yeah, he's good. But I think that's what you said was, yeah. So, I mean, Jack Dorsey, the CEO, he doesn't make all the decisions just single-handedly. I mean, they definitely have committees. They have roundtables and boards and talk about these things, but it's just so hard to make decisions for billions of people. And they started to, well, with Instagram, they took away some of the users' ability to see the amount of likes. So that's a start in the right direction. And then they may do some other stuff, but it's just, it affects so many people. So they have to just proceed with so much caution, and then one minor change. I mean, the Instagram algorithm just changed and everyone's just yelling about that because people don't like change.
I know. Well, I know, but I said on my very, very first podcast, I said, it's not change that people don't like. It's the situations that make them uncomfortable, because we're experiencing change right this very second,
Oh,
1 second, another second. Like I said, this is the youngest I'm ever going to be, and the oldest I've ever been. But yeah, people do not like, but you never hear it when it's, oh my gosh, I just got engaged, I'm so excited, or I just got a promotion, or I just won $10 million in poker, like that's all change. But it's the, oh my gosh, I just lost my job. It's like that. That's really, it's the situations that make us uncomfortable. And that, unfortunately, those things are part of life. But on the flip side of that coin, those are the times that I think that you really get to see what you're made of. And that's when the rubber meets the road, and you can, go hide in a hole, or you can discover who you are, why you're here, and go out and live your purpose.
Absolutely.
And really, truly, social media is an amazing way to do that, and to be able to have access to so many different kinds of people with different, oh my God, I could go on and on about that. Everyone is so unique, and it's freaking awesome. But okay, I have a couple questions for you about you and social media, your relationship with it, your current, obviously, we know you have the podcast, but, do you counsel people? Do you have a course? How do you help people, let's say that they have, they want to know how to have an online presence. They made their, at name. But they really, and they put their photo up. But they're at very phase 1, their bio is not even done. What would you say to someone like that versus is there a,
yeah, I can go off that. So actually before I answer that, I was
by the way, they're probably not ready for it if that's where they're at, but
another great quote that I was thinking of when you were talking before about the social media and about being willing to go into discomfort for true growth is I think it was Will Smith. He's like, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So if you're able to push through and do things that you're uncomfortable with on a regular basis, that's how you grow. And that should be the 11th attribute that I did for my roundup episode on the 100 interview recap, because the ability to be okay with being uncomfortable is key for every single guest I've had on. It's key for anyone who's trying to build a presence or be successful. And yeah, social media is a great tool and gauge to work out those muscles. So it's kind of like working out your not give a shit muscle. Of course you care, but you need to work out not really, letting people's judgment stop you from posting this video or from posting that workout or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question though, if someone was starting on social media and they want to build up an online presence, before you do anything, when it comes to engaging with other users or posting content, you have to think internally. You just have to take time and really think and be self-aware. What do I actually enjoy doing? What do I have fun doing? Because in order to be successful online, you have to consistently post content so people can connect with you. And in order to consistently post content, you're most likely going to need to enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it and it becomes a struggle for you and you're not having a good time with it, then you'll eventually stop. Because to build up an online presence, it's going to take a large amount of effort without any ROI in the beginning. And there'll be a certain point in the future, if you stick with it, that something will turn but a lot of times it doesn't turn for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And a lot of people are not willing to continuously put out content and put their stuff out there without getting that ROI. So that's why so few people make it.
Because it feels like rejection.
Yeah.
Even though it's not actually rejection, it's just people that aren't aware of your stuff because you haven't gotten that exposure or whatever. That's where they have to learn to not take it personal, because it's not actually rejection. It's just people, they're not aware of you. And who knows, maybe yeah, you if you are successful and you do build an online presence, absolutely there's going to be people that aren't feeling what you're putting out. That's okay, they can keep it moving. That not going to affect what I'm going to put up, because I'm going to put up what I want to put up, because I'm me. You're going to put up what you want to put. I mean, of course, it's not I'm not talking about offensive things or like things of that nature, but the things that make me who I am, and the reason that I have a podcast, or the reason that I'm writing books or whatever, to be truthful, they're really not even for me, because I've already learned the things that I'm writing about. Granted, I'm learning new things every single day. Hopefully I'm going to get a reprieve, just to break a little break on some of the harder stuff. Cause I think the last time you and I talked, I was in the trenches on a situation, and oh my gosh, if you only knew, it's been so effing insane. If I told you it was bad then, it is, I'm telling you, I have had, I feel like, number one, I just live my life I live a lifestyle of forgiveness, but with boundaries. But I feel like I have been in the longest endurance race, marathon, and I cannot believe I'm still able to go and be sane and keep my love on, because if you think you've seen stuff in like the judicial system, at a high level, I mean, what I've seen down here in a lower level it's something.
Yeah, I bet.
And at some point, it will be, at some point, all things get brought to light, and it's going to be wild, but I am just praying for, I think I have found, like, through all of the stuff, and social media has definitely played a role in that, because I've had to forgive a whole bunch of strangers that I've never met, you know what I mean? Like, over the years. And just choose to, like, you know what, I can sit and be mad about this, whatever that they said that's not even true, or who knows, maybe it was true, because there was a lot of some truthful things, but I didn't feel like it was like people's place to comment, or I can get off of this because maybe I'm just not mature enough for it. And in one case, that's what it was, and it wasn't beneficial for me to let that negativity come in, because I wasn't at a place, just maturity wise, emotionally wise, where I could see the forest through the trees, but also feel where I was walking. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I knew it in my head, but I wasn't able to actively live that out, you know what I mean, without it bothering me. So
I mean, you've lived more of a public life than most people. So just naturally, you're going to have more people say certain things, especially when you put out content that maybe isn't even related to what you're trying to say. So, I can understand how that's difficult, but it just comes back to being willing to, put yourself out there, and you're going to get judged either way. So
You might as well have fun.
Just keep going. Yeah. Just keep going. Keep
the
pushing
endurance thing. That's I mean, that's what I was getting around to that. You know, you have to be willing to put in some time. Like it, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you know, it's okay that things take time.
Yeah, they should take time.
It really is. We have to be aware, like we live in such an instant gratification world, you know, that when we have to wait on something, I mean, trust me, if I have to wait at a red light for like more than a minute and a half, I'm like flashing the lights, you know, I mean, you know, and obviously that's not good. I'm working on that. But, you know, we have to be aware that there's people that didn't get their true careers off and running until they're 60, 70 years old, you know, and our lifespan is so different, you know, now.
The founder of Grey Goose I think he founded 65 and also FC.
Who was that? I couldn't hear you.
The CEO of Grey Goose, I don't know his name, but I believe it was Grey Goose. He started that brand and that company when he was like 65.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And there's definitely some good examples of that. KFC, Colonel Sanders, he was pretty old when he started it.
And this is, I mean, and those guys, I mean, KFC's been around for a long time. So that was a while ago. Like we have the luxury now of, you know, being able to do things later in life and it not having that, you know, that negative effect on us like it maybe did on our parents or our grandparents. And it's good for us to learn patience.
Yeah, that was one of the attributes I was going to talk about is the patience one. Because and going back to Gary Vee, I mean, he didn't start truly putting out his stuff besides wine content. It was like 33 or 34, and now everyone knows who he is. But relating it back to your original question too, you know, I've been doing the podcast for 2 years, and I've just recently rolled out consulting for podcasters because I didn't want to really start to, you know, try to do that without having myself be proven a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, you've been doing it for 2 years. You actually probably know what you're talking about when it comes to this. So therefore I'll listen to what you have to say in the podcasting space. So building a social presence, you know, after you get clear on what you want to do and your fun, repeatable content strategy, then it's just getting clear on, you know, maybe who you want to help or your optimum client. And then, you know, starting to put out content for them. So I do that in several different ways, but, you know, right now I'm just in the phases of that myself. You know, I've been building a foundation with this podcast, and now I'm branching out into, you know, more broad consulting for podcasters. So helping podcasters, you know, with their shows and growing their audience.
With, that's amazing. I think there is such a need for that. I mean, truly, I couldn't even tell you, because I know there are so many talented people out there, and there is, you know, every single person brings something different. You know what I mean? Like, we all bring something different. So it's not like, you know, oh no, there's too many podcasters. No, every person has a voice. So if they want to have a podcast and they have something to say and they're able to go through those steps, but the thing is, it's like, you know, people need guidance. And that's why I think that what you're doing with this consulting thing is going to be absolutely tremendous. A tremendous gift. I mean, I know, you know, I'm sure you're going to charge people for it. I think as you should. And I'm sure you will, right? Yes. You like,
yes,
you know,
no, there'll be a
fee. I'm answering your questions for you.
Yeah. In the past, last year, or, you know, 8 or 9 months ago, I did like some free groups and stuff where I was doing calls for free, but yeah, we're into the charge phase for me.
Okay. That's awesome. I mean, I can see in the beginning where you're, maybe even testing things out on your end, you know, kind of get, you know, filling it out. So that's, you know, that I can totally get down with, but, this has such value, and so many people are going to be so much more excellent having taken a course by somebody who has proven to be excellent at podcasting and networking. I mean, was so impressed with you personally, just with how you communicated with me to get me on your podcast, and, you know, you following up with me, and just you're easy to talk to. You explain things really well. You have patience, where you can see I'm a work in progress on, like, truly, I truly am trying not to dominate the conversation, because I want to hear everything, but I talk so much. It's like, oh, an hour and a half's gone by, or 2 hours have gone by. And I'm like, oh my. So that's something that I've been working on it for like a decade. So, you know, I mean, even if you just offered that, I would take your course for that. But even though I've been podcasting now for a year, I feel like I still am. And granted, yes, COVID has, I mean, I was learning Texas family law, because I was my own attorney for 6 months, and teaching all of my children, and working from home, you know, during this whole pandemic, and, you know, doing my podcast in its infant stage, you know, and trying to figure that out. And it would have been like amazing to have someone to call and be like, hey, you know, what do you think about this? You know, I mean, like, if you saw where I'm at right now, I have this green screen in front of me that I have not figured out how to use. I have tried like every form of lighting, because, you know, I have a great studio that I go to, but I'm going to move out of this house soon, and I want to build a podcast studio so that if I want to record in the middle of the night, you know, and that's what time I can fit it in, that I have something that's set up, you know, to do that. Mm-hmm. But like, we're talking, I'm like looking up cameras and just every single thing you could think of, because this is not my forte. So there's that whole component of it, plus just the content and the guest and the, you know, your target audience, and what are you about, and what do you want to say, and all of that stuff. So you bringing in these consulting courses I think it is so timely, and I am thrilled for you, because I know it's going to be absolutely dynamite and super successful. And the quality of the content and podcasts that come out from people having taken your course is going to be like next level excellent. And you're going to save people a lot of missteps, which I am all about. If I can get wisdom from somebody else that knows more than I do, I am all about it, all day, every day.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, that's really the basis of how money exchanges online. So people, you know, the big misconception that people have is they pay for something online and they expect something to magically occur, like a magical formula to just bring them money every week or every month. Well, it's not really like that. You're paying for access to someone who's been there before and can tell you the right answers and how to do it, but you still have to do it. You know, they are giving you the recipe for the cake, but you still have to bake the cake. It's not just going to magically bake itself. And that's the problem that a lot of people have. You know, they don't want to actually do the work, or they think they want to do the work, but they end up not being willing to do the work. But it's hard. It's a work in progress. I mean, you have a million balls in the air. So someone like yourself is not going to be able to put in as many hours as someone who has, you know, no family and no crazy court orders or whatever you're going through. So be able to put in a lot more time and focus to it than yourself. But, you know, we're all different. But the main thing is people pay for access. And if you can solve the problem, you can make money. I think a lot of people are going to be turning towards that opportunity, especially pandemic. A lot of regular jobs are not going to be coming back. A lot of businesses are going to be gone, and it's going to be tough to come back. So people are going to have to pivot and do something different.
Yeah. And I can tell you, you know I'm in that season of life where, you know, for all intents and purposes, I have accomplished what I do in a 24-hour day as a mom, and just, you know, a working mom and a single mom. It's a lot, I truly feel like, because I know what I have in my brain, and I have like 20 books going that I'm like writing content for. I'm writing music, and like teaching my kids like music. I'm like, okay, now mommy's gonna learn the drums, because I'm gonna teach you to do this so we can put this song together that I wrote. Like I'm integrating them into that stuff, like with things that interest them. But on the flip side, I'm having to learn gaming because my kids are into that now. Thanks, COVID. I mean, that's like the last thing I want to be learning. But, I have like 9 years before my youngest is out of the house. And if I only pump out, 5 or 6 books by the time I'm 45, like I have to be okay with that, because Lord willing, I'm going to have like a whole second half of life, or, maybe longer. Who knows how long God will let me live, to get every single thing that he's put on my heart to do for him out there. And I want to do it with excellence. So I would rather, take my time and be okay that, maybe I didn't finish this book, or I didn't put my book out this fall. I think it's supposed to come out now in May. But I'm okay with that, because it's not, I don't feel like any of this time where we've been kind of reset in 2020 has been wasted. I know it's been very painful for a lot of people, that have dealt with the virus and with job layoffs and with all of the stuff with the, political world. But, on this podcast, I always talk about, finding, accessing the good, all the good stuff through the times that are challenging, because that's really when the growth happens. And you touched on that earlier. You did. You said,
oh yeah, yep.
It's really, you see what you're made of, and you learn lessons, and you get endurance, and you get, your integrity, your character gets built up. You learn so much more about who you are, and you have, we've had time to actually be home and reflect and think, maybe, okay, well, what do I want my podcast to be about? Or what do I, what are my interests? I mean, this life gets so busy. Sometimes people don't take time to learn who they are. And identity is just such an important topic to me. And the world wants to know who you are. You know what I mean? Because it's just the one of you. You know what I mean? And there will never be another. We're all one of a kind. So we have a really awesome opportunity to show God's handiwork in his creation, which is us, to the world by just being ourselves. And we can do that through social media, and we can do it more effectively through kindness and love. I mean, we can be funny, we can have our sense of humor, we can be sarcastic. If we feel like cussing, we can cuss. I mean, we have freedom, you know what I mean? Which I love. But it has the potential, and I hope it always does, to do so much good. I think that, I think that like 99% of social media users would agree with that.
It's a growth age as a population. So I think people are going to look back. It's hard to see it now, but honestly, I think they're going to look back and be like, 2020 was probably that could have happened for humanity, even though it seems right now.
It changed my life, I can tell you. I mean, I've gone through some stuff, but I've gone through, quote, some stuff for like the last 2 decades. Well, actually the last almost 4. I'm 39. So, because that's life. It's peaks and valleys. I know how to navigate those things much easier now without it affecting me. And that's why I feel like, okay, I'm able to bring something to the table to help other people that haven't, navigated some of these wild waters that I have.
And just to wrap it up, for every one person that you see post online, whether it's about fitness or real estate or woodworking or podcasting or whatever it is, there's thousands and thousands and thousands who are just like that person that are not posting online. So you may be oversaturated as a user because you're only seeing these people, but there's millions of people behind the scenes that are not posting, that are seeing your stuff. Well, maybe they're not directly seeing it, but they have the ability to see it, and then they'll have the ability to be positively influenced by what you're putting out. So the world does need what you have, even if you think that things have already been done. Yeah, they've been done, but they haven't been done by you.
Amen. That is the quote of the day. That is like that was fire. They have not been done by you. In fact, I recorded an IGTV the other day, and I said something similar. It was a silly topic, that I felt like I needed to address, but that was my last line was like almost exactly like that. Which is probably why I liked it so much. No, I'm kidding. But it's so true. So I love that you're doing that. Now, how can people find your courses for consulting? Is this up and running? Are we like off to the races, or?
Yeah, right now it's very simple. I mean, if you're a podcaster, if you happen to be listening, you're a podcaster, you can go to newagepodcasters.com, and it just has a video on there, and there's a couple resources, free resources, and then just an offer for consulting. It's just, helping podcasters grow their audience and their social presence in the most efficient way possible. So that's, what I feel like I've done. So that's what I'm trying to help people do. And then just to connect with me, you can find all my accounts on Instagram, but I'll just give one to not be confusing. New Age Influencers Podcasts is the podcast that I have, and that's the account. So you can see all the guests there, including Katie. Yeah, that's my stuff. I appreciate you having me on.
Now, just real quick, Aaron, do you take people that want to start a podcast but are not official podcasters yet?
Yes, so I do that more on a one-on-one basis. So if you're in that bucket, you can certainly reach out to me, DM me, or contact through that page. And yeah, we can help you do that as well. But for the most part, what I'll be helping most people is people who are already podcasting. Awesome. But yeah, I do both.
Well, listen, I always love talking to you. I think you are just such an ambitious, fascinating guy who you are full of life, and it comes through, whether it's, I think we've done 2 now, just audio. I'll have to just bite the bullet and do a video one. Since we've been in the Zoom world for a while, but yeah. I do get dressed sometimes. But I have watched some of your stuff. I've listened to some of your shows, and I just really, I think a lot of you, and I love that you, just go for it. When I found out you quit your job to play poker, and then, started off on this whole endeavor of social media, not knowing where it was going to take you, but you knew there was more out there for you. And now you're walking in the thing that you're supposed to be doing for this season of your life. It's awesome. It takes bravery and it takes courage, and, you have to just get over that fear, and you did it. So now you're going to be helping so many people. And I would love to sign up for your course. I think it's excellent. I think the whole concept excellent. I was looking for that. I'm like, can't someone tell me how to do this? So the need is out there, and it's going to be out of this world. So
thank you so much for the words. I appreciate it.
Oh my goodness. My pleasure. They're so well deserved. And I'm so grateful that you joined me today on the show.
Yeah, it's been so fun. I'm excited to continue to connect and speak and watch each other's shows. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Hey, and if I don't talk to you, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and cheers to 2021 and all the adventures that are ahead for us there.
Absolutely. You as well. Merry Christmas season.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You can find Aaron, newageinfluencers.com. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
That'll work, but it's also, newagepodcasters.com, newageinfluencers.com, or New Age Influencers Podcast on Instagram.
That's the pro right there. But thank you again for being here. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on When Life Throws You a Curve and How to Make the Adjustment. Come find me on social media on Instagram and Twitter at Katie Hamilton 32, on Facebook at Katie Hamilton and at When Life Throws You a Curve 32, and on YouTube at Katie Hamilton.
The content provided here was supplied by a third party for display on our platform. The content is not owned or created by Real News PR. The views and opinions are those of the creator.